Some people carry light within themselves, even in the deepest darkness. Steph Curry was driving his Tesla Model S through the streets of Oakland, but his mind was completely focused on the waitress he had just left behind at the Golden Spoon, Maya Rodriguez. The name echoed in his head like a song you can't stop humming, like a prayer that his heart had decided to memorize without his brain's permission. 4 hours. 4 hours he had spent, observing a young woman work with a dedication that he recognized intimately. It was the same dedication that had taken him from empty gyms in Charlotte to the biggest stages in the NBA. The same inner strength that had transformed a skinny kid, underestimated by all coaches and scouts, into the greatest three-point shooter in basketball history. But Maya wasn't shooting balls into a basket. She was throwing all her vital energy against a wall of financial impossibilities. And Steph had recognized in her something that few people possess: the ability to keep humanity intact even when the world conspires to destroy it. The way she treated that family with the sick child. Steph smiled involuntarily, remembering the scene he had witnessed less than an hour ago. Maya paying for pancakes out of her own pocket, money she clearly couldn't afford to lose, for a family that had no way to feed their children. Inventing a special Tuesday promotion to preserve their dignity. Choosing kindness when she had every reason in the world to be bitter, cynical, closed off. It was exactly how his own mother had taught him to see the world. Steph stopped at the red light on International Boulevard and closed his eyes for a few seconds, letting a specific memory invade his mind like a warm wave of nostalgia. Charlotte, North Carolina, 1994. Steph at 6 years old. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and Steph was sitting at the Curry family's kitchen table doing math homework, addition and subtraction problems that seemed monumental to his first-grade mind. Del Curry had just arrived home after Charlotte Hornets practice, still wearing the team's warm-up suit, smelling of sweat and determination. "How was school today, champ?" Del asked, sitting next to his son and ruffling his curly hair. "It was good, Dad. But there's something—" Steph stopped writing and looked at his father with those eyes that already showed signs of the intensity that would make him famous. "There's a girl in my class, Amanda, who never brings lunch. And today she cried during recess because she was hungry." Sonia Curry, who was at the sink washing dishes, stopped what she was doing and turned around slowly. She had that smile on her face, not a happy smile, but a proud smile, the kind that appears when you realize you're raising the right child. "And what did you do?" she asked. "I gave her half of my sandwich." "But Mom—" Steph hesitated, as if he was about to confess something shameful. "I wanted to give her the whole sandwich, but I was really hungry too." Sonia approached the table, dried her hands on her apron, and knelt beside Steph's chair until she was at eye level with him. "Son, you did exactly the right thing. But let me teach you something that will guide you for the rest of your life. When God blesses you, it's so you can bless others. And when you have more than you need, it's because someone somewhere has less than they need." "But I don't have much, Mom. I only have one sandwich." Del laughed and put his hand on his son's shoulder. "Champ, it's not about how much you have. It's about what you do with what you have. You shared your food when you were hungry. That's being a real champion." Sonia nodded. "Always remember, success without purpose isn't real success. And the noblest purpose is caring for those who need it." The light turned green, and Steph returned to the present. But that memory had ignited something inside him, an absolute certainty that Maya Rodriguez wasn't just a person who needed help. She was someone who deserved the opportunity to help others, someone who, with the right tools, could multiply kindness throughout the world. He needed to know everything about her. 10:47 in the morning, Marcus Williams's office was in the heart of downtown San Francisco, on the 34th floor of a glass and steel building that reflected the bay like a giant mirror turned toward the sky. Marcus wasn't just Steph's agent. In 15 years of partnership, he had become friend, counselor, chosen brother, and, when necessary, the man who made impossible possible. Marcus's office had that understated elegance typical of San Francisco. Dark wood furniture, modern art on the walls, a panoramic view that included the Golden Gate Bridge in the distance. But Steph barely noticed the decoration when he entered. His mind was completely focused on the conversation he needed to have. Steph. Marcus stood up from his desk when Steph entered, but stopped mid-motion. In the 15 years he'd known Steph, he had developed a radar for his friend's different moods. And that specific mood, intense, determined, with an almost spiritual energy, was rare. "Man, you're different. What happened?" Steph sat in the Italian leather armchair that Marcus kept specifically for his visits. But instead of relaxing, as he normally did, he leaned forward, as if he was about to jump at any moment. "Marcus, I need your help with something. Something very personal and very important." Marcus sat down too, instinctively adopting the body posture of someone preparing for a serious conversation. "Of course, man. Talk." Steph took his phone out of his pocket and looked at a note he had made during traffic. Maya Rodriguez, Golden Spoon, 24 years old. Interrupted dreams. Natural kindness. I need you to investigate someone. Discreetly. Very, very discreetly. Marcus frowned. In 15 years representing Steph, he had dealt with investigations about business opportunities, commercial partnerships, background checks for employees. But there was something in Steph's tone that suggested this was different. Investigate how? Background check for business? Credit verification? Due diligence for some investment? No. Steph handed him a paper where he had written Maya's full name, the Golden Spoon's address, and some basic observations. I want to know her story. The whole story. Family, work, education, difficulties, dreams, fears, hopes, everything. Marcus took the paper and read it carefully. Steph, this doesn't seem like you. In 15 years, you've never asked for a personal investigation of someone who wasn't directly related to business or security. What's happening? Steph was silent for a few seconds, organizing his thoughts. How to explain to Marcus that he had spent the entire morning observing a waitress work and had seen in her something that touched a part of his soul that he thought was reserved only for family? How to describe the feeling of instant recognition, as if he was looking at a female version of himself in different circumstances? Marcus, do you remember when we were kids and my mom always talked about recognizing disguised angels? Marcus nodded slowly. Sonia Curry had become a maternal figure for Steph's entire team over the years, and her philosophies about life, purpose, and social responsibility were legendary in the inner circle. She always said that angels don't appear with wings and halos. They appear as normal people doing extraordinary things when no one is watching, and that our responsibility is to recognize them and help them fly. Yes, I remember. She said that at my wedding, actually. Marcus. Steph leaned even further forward, and his voice gained that intensity he normally reserved for decisive moments in the playoffs. I just met an angel. 11:30 in the morning. While Marcus initiated his discreet investigation, utilizing contacts in background check agencies, public databases, and the informal information network that every well-connected sports agent maintains, Steph drove to a place that always helped him think clearly and make important decisions. The Curry family property in Atherton was more than a house. It was a sanctuary. 15 acres of carefully maintained landscape, including a basketball court that Steph had built as an exact replica of the court where he learned to dream about the NBA, the Biddy basketball court in Charlotte. But today, instead of going straight to the court, Steph went to another place. The home office was the space where he made the most important decisions of his life. Walls covered with family photos, awards that represented decades of hard work, and a bookshelf full of books about leadership, philosophy, and life purpose. It was there that he had decided to sign with Golden State in 2009. There that he had planned his first charity initiative. There that he had structured the educational fund that now benefited hundreds of children in Oakland. Steph sat in the simple wooden chair, not an expensive executive armchair, but a common chair that reminded him to maintain humility, and picked up the phone. "Marcus, it's me again." "Man, it hasn't even been an hour since you left here." "I know, but I need you to accelerate this investigation and add some specific things. I want to know about her family's medical situation. If there are hospital debts, how much they are, what kind of treatment is being necessary, what can be done to resolve it." "Steph," Marcus made a long pause. "This is getting very specific, very personal. Are you sure you want to get involved this way? Depending on what we find, this could become a complex situation, both emotionally and legally." "Marcus." Steph's voice assumed that calm authority he rarely used, but which always indicated unshakable decision. It was the same voice he used in huddles during crucial playoff moments. "We've trusted each other for 15 years. How many times have I made decisions that seemed crazy at the time, and later proved right?" Marcus laughed. "Many times. The decision to sign with the Warriors when they were terrible, for example. Or starting that education program in Oakland when everyone said it was too risky." "Exactly. I need you to trust me now. Something tells me this is one of the most important things we'll ever do. Maybe the most important." Pause. "All right, Steph. I'll mobilize my entire network. We'll have preliminary information by the end of the afternoon." 12:15 in the afternoon, Steph hung up the phone and walked to the kitchen, where Isha was preparing lunch for the children. Riley, 8 years old, was at the table doing homework. Ryan, 6, was building something with Legos on the floor. Cannon, 4, was helping Isha stir pancake batter with a concentration that made Steph smile involuntarily. It was the perfect life. Steph knew this and never took it for granted. He had grown up in a loving family, but had also seen teammates who hadn't had the same luck. He had seen how the absence of family structure, educational opportunity, or financial stability could bring down people with as much talent as him. The difference between him and Maya wasn't merit. It was luck. Luck and circumstances. "Dad," Riley looked up from her math homework. "Can you help me with this problem? I can't get it." Steph sat next to his daughter and looked at the problem. 1,247 minus 650 equals question mark. $1,247. It was almost exactly the monthly salary that Marcus had briefly mentioned about restaurant employees, and $650 was probably rent in Oakland for someone in Maya's situation. Life is made of coincidences that aren't coincidences. "Dad, are you okay?" Riley touched his arm. Steph returned to the present and smiled at his daughter. "Sorry, Princess. I was thinking about something else. Let's see this problem." While helping Riley with math, operations that were challenging for her, but that represented the cruel financial reality of millions of people, Steph couldn't stop thinking about Maya. She was probably at that exact moment serving lunch to people who earned in 1 hour what she earned in a week, and choosing to be kind to all of them. "Isha?" Steph called his wife after finishing homework with Riley. "Yes?" She approached, cleaning her hands on the apron that said, "World's Okayest Mom," an ironic gift from the children, since she was obviously an extraordinary mother. If you could completely change someone's life with a simple gesture, would you do it? Isha smiled. It was exactly the type of hypothetical question that Steph used to ask when he was processing some important decision. Of course, without hesitation. Why the question? Steph told the whole story. The golden spoon, the 4 hours of observation, the poor family with the sick child, Maya paying for pancakes out of her own pocket, the conversation about overtime cuts that he had witnessed, the desperate phone call that he had seen her receive. Isha listened to everything in silence, occasionally nodding her head with the expression of someone who perfectly understands the complex feelings that Steph was experiencing. "So, what do you want to do?" she asked when he finished. "I want to find out exactly what her situation is. And then, I want to solve all her problems at once." Isha sat on the arm of the armchair where Steph was and ran her hand through his hair, an intimate gesture that always calmed him. "You're not even asking a question, are you? You've already decided." "Already. Then why are we still talking? Go after her." 1:30 in the afternoon. While Steph finalized his plans in Atherton, on the other side of the Bay Area, Maya was living what could easily be described as the worst day of her life, and that in a life that had already included many bad days. She had finished her 8-hour shift at the Golden Spoon at 2 in the afternoon, but not before hearing Jerry announce publicly, in front of all the employees and some customers, that some team members are going to have to learn to live with fewer overtime hours because the economy is tough for everyone. The economy was tough for everyone. Maya almost laughed at the irony. Jerry drove a BHDE 2019 BMW and lived in a 3-bedroom house in Fremont. His tough economy meant maybe dining out once a week instead of twice. Her tough economy meant choosing between buying medicine for her mother or paying rent. Now she was at her second job, cleaning offices in San Francisco's financial district. Techno Clean Solutions paid $15 per hour to clean the offices of companies that made millions per year. And Maya did this work from 3 to 7 in the afternoon, 4 days a week. 15th floor of Montgomery Tower. The elevator stopped with an elegant ding, and Maya got out carrying her cart of cleaning supplies. The 15th floor housed 3 companies, a financial technology startup, a law firm, and an investment consultancy. All of them populated by people who earned more in a month than Maya earned in a year. But Maya had learned to become invisible. It was a skill that all people in services develop. The ability to clean around important people as if you were a ghost. To vacuum carpets while executives make calls about millions of dollars. To empty trash cans full of contract drafts that represent more money than you'll see in your entire lifetime. Maya started with the startup office. TechFlow Innovations. 3 young people in their 20s who had developed an app that would revolutionize micro-investments and who now had a glass office with a view of the bay. They were in a meeting in the conference room, gesturing, energetically while discussing something about scaling user acquisition and monetization strategies. While cleaning around the conference table, Maya heard fragments of the conversation. If we can close this investment round, we'll have 12 million to expand. The problem is, we need to show real traction before Q4. Maybe if we hire that marketing company that worked with Uber, 12 million. Maya stopped cleaning for a second. $12 million to expand an app, while she needed 12,000 to save her mother's life. The irony of geographical proximity between wealth and poverty in San Francisco was sometimes too absurd to seem real. "Excuse me," one of the young executives, disheveled hair, a $200 t-shirt that looked cheap on purpose, sneakers that cost more than Maya's monthly salary, interrupted the meeting to speak with her. "Can you come back later? We're in an important meeting." Maya nodded and left the room without saying a word. Invisible again. She continued cleaning other offices, but couldn't stop thinking about the ease with which those young people talked about millions, as if money were just numbers on a spreadsheet, not the difference between life and death for real people. 2:45 in the afternoon, Maya was cleaning the executive bathroom of the law firm when the phone rang. Old Nokia, vibrating in her pocket like a desperate insect. She looked at the display. Oakland Medical Center. Her heart stopped instantly. It was the third call from the hospital in 2 days, and hospital calls always meant complications. With trembling hands and still holding a cleaning cloth that smelled of disinfectant, Maya answered. "Hello? Miss Rodriguez? This is Nurse Patricia from the dialysis unit. I need to inform you that your mother had an episode during the procedure today." The world stopped. Maya leaned against the bathroom sink, feeling her legs weaken. What? What happened? Her blood. Pressure dropped drastically during the dialysis session. It went down to 70/40. We managed to stabilize with medication, but she fainted and was unconscious for a few minutes. Fainted. Unconscious. The words echoed in Maya's mind like funeral bells. She knew enough about dialysis. She had researched obsessively since her mother started treatment, to know that dramatic drops in blood pressure were signs that the kidneys were failing faster than expected. Is she okay now? She's conscious and stable. But Dr. Henderson wants to speak with you as soon as possible. There are some issues that need to be discussed urgently. Issues that need to be discussed urgently. Medical code for "Your mother is dying faster than predicted, and you need to make decisions about which you have no control." Maya looked around the luxurious bathroom where she was working. Italian marble on the walls, gold-plated faucets, toilet paper that probably cost more per roll than she earned per hour. And there she was, holding a phone that carried the worst possible news about the only person she loved in this world. "I'm coming there now." "Miss Rodriguez? Just one more thing. Dr. Henderson also mentioned that he needs to discuss future treatment options, considering..." The nurse made an uncomfortable pause. "Considering the family's financial situation?" The family's financial situation. Elegant medical euphemism for "your mother is going to die because you're poor." Maya hung up the phone and stood there in the marble bathroom, surrounded by the smell of expensive cleaning products and the distant sound of people discussing millions of dollars as if it were monopoly money. And for the first time in 2 years of working at Techno-Clean Solutions, she couldn't be invisible anymore. She leaned against the cold marble wall and cried. Tears that came from such a deep place that it seemed like she was crying with her entire soul. Tears of exhaustion, of desperation, of anger, against a universe that seemed to have decided that some people simply didn't deserve a chance, but mainly tears of absolute helplessness. 3:30 in the afternoon, Maya packed her cleaning materials with the mechanical efficiency of someone who had transformed survival into art. She informed her supervisor that she needed to leave for a medical emergency, losing 4 hours of pay she couldn't afford to lose. Got in the 1998 Honda Civic that worked more by miracle than by mechanics and drove from San Francisco to Oakland at a speed that mixed urgency with desperation. The 45-minute journey seemed to last 45 hours. While driving across the Bay Bridge, passing landscapes she would normally find beautiful, Maya couldn't stop calculating. Always calculating. It was as if her mind had been programmed to transform every experience into survival mathematics. Hours lost today. 6. Early departure from Golden Spoon plus loss at Techno Clean. Money lost, $127. Current medical debt, $24,315. Payment deadline, 2 days. Money in account, $843. Difference between what she has and what she needs, $11,314. Impossible. Mathematically impossible. But Maya already knew that her life had become a series of impossible equations. The only difference is that now the impossibilities had expiration dates. 4:15 in the afternoon. Oakland Medical Center smelled exactly like Maya remembered from all previous visits. Disinfectant mixed with fear. Hope mixed with desperation. The indefinable aroma of human life being tested to its limits. She knew the way by heart. Elevator to the 3rd floor, turn right in the oncology corridor, past the waiting room where other families lived their own silent dramas, until reaching the dialysis unit. She found her mother in the recovery room, connected to monitors that beeped at a frequency that Maya had learned to interpret as stable but concerning. Maria Rodriguez was 52 years old, but illness and poverty had stolen at least a decade from her. Her face, which had once been full and expressive, now seemed sculpted in pale wax. But when she saw Maya enter, she still managed to produce that smile, weak but genuine, that always made Maya remember why it was worth fighting. "Mija," Maria whispered, using the nickname she had called Maya since she was a baby. "You didn't need to come. I know you were working." Maya approached the bed and held her mother's hand. A hand that had once been strong enough to work double shifts in a clothing factory, and that now seemed made of tissue paper and fragile bones. "Mom, you're more important than any job. How are you feeling?" "Better now that you're here." Maria tried to sit up, but the movement left her visibly dizzy. "But Mija, I need to tell you something." That's when Dr. Henderson entered the room. Maya knew him too well. He was the doctor who had given all the bad news in the last 2 years. A man in his 50s, graying hair, kind but tired eyes. He was obviously someone who genuinely cared about his patients, but who was trapped in the cruel limitations of a medical system that treated health as a commercial commodity. "Maya, I need to speak with you. Privately, please." Maya kissed her mother's forehead and followed the doctor to the corridor, preparing her heart for another conversation about money, deadlines, and mathematical impossibilities. "Maya, I'm going to be completely direct with you." Dr. Henderson leaned against the corridor wall and assumed the posture of someone who had given bad news so many times that he had developed a specific protocol for it. Today's episode was more serious than we initially thought. Maya felt the floor moving under her feet. What does that mean? It means your mother's kidneys are failing faster than our initial projections. Dialysis is still working, but each session is becoming more difficult for her body to handle. Faster than projections. How much time does she have? Dr. Henderson looked at the floor for a moment before answering. With continuous dialysis, maybe 6 months. Without dialysis, he didn't finish the sentence. 6 months. Maya automatically did the calculation. 6 months of dialysis, 3 times a week. Each session costing approximately $500. 24 sessions. Per month. $12,000 per month. $72,000 for 6 months. And she had $843 in her account. Dr. Henderson, about Friday's ultimatum. Maya, I know it's an impossible situation. Believe me, I wish things were different. But the hospital has policies, and without at least partial payment. I know. Maya interrupted, not because she was irritated with him, but because she couldn't hear another explanation about hospital policies that transformed human lives into spreadsheet numbers. And if she needs a transplant? Dr. Henderson sighed deeply. A kidney transplant costs between $300,000 and $400,000. And that's assuming we find a compatible donor quickly, which can take years. $300,000. Maya leaned against the corridor wall and felt all energy leave her body at once. It was as if someone had opened a valve and drained all her ability to fight, to hope, to believe that there was any possible solution. $300,000. Working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, without spending a cent on food, housing, transportation, or any other basic need to stay alive, that would take. She tried to do the calculation, but her mind refused to process such absurd numbers. It was like trying to calculate the distance to Mars in steps. Dr. Henderson. Maya felt her voice failing. If she can't pay for dialysis and can't get the EE transplant. Maya. The doctor put his hand on her shoulder with the gentleness of someone who had given this news hundreds of times, but who had never gotten used to its cruelty. With the current rate of deterioration, your mother has maybe 2 months without dialysis. 2 months. The words floated in the air like a death sentence. Maya leaned against the corridor wall and cried, not discreet tears that she could hide from patients and hospital staff, but real, desperate tears. The kind that come when you finally accept that you've lost a war you never had a chance of winning. She cried for the father who died too young, in a fall that could have been avoided with better safety equipment, for the mother who was slowly dying in a hospital bed because health was a privilege of the rich, for the dreams of being a nurse that seemed more impossible every day, for the $12,000 she needed by Friday and would never have, for the $300,000 that were as impossible as flying to the moon by walking, but mainly, she cried for the feeling of complete helplessness. It was the feeling of drowning in the open ocean, seeing the shore kilometers away, knowing that no matter how much you swim, you'll never be able to reach it. The feeling of being in a burning room with all doors locked. The feeling of watching someone you love die in slow motion, knowing that there is a cure, but that the cure costs more money than you can imagine. That's when she remembered the card. Maya dried her eyes with the back of her hand and took the business card out of her pants pocket. White paper, simple, with a name that seemed familiar but that she couldn't place. Steph Curry. She looked at the back of the card where it was written by hand, Maya, your heart and your strength inspire more people than you imagine. Sometimes angels appear when we least expect them. Call this number tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Your life is about to change. A friend who believes in you. Sometimes angels appear when we least expect them. Maya looked around the hospital corridor. Other family members waiting for news, nurses running between rooms, doctors carrying tablets with information about life and death. And there she was, holding a business card from a stranger who had spent 4 hours watching her work and had left a handwritten promise that her life was about to change. What difference could a phone call make? But then she remembered the last words, written on the card, "A friend who believes in you." Maya didn't believe in miracles. Not after everything she had been through. Not after seeing her father die in an accident that could have been avoided. Not after watching her mother slowly waste away in a hospital bed because medicine was business, not a human right. But at that moment, in a hospital corridor, with the future crumbling around her like a building in controlled demolition, she decided that maybe, just maybe, it was worth trying to believe one more time. Because when you have nothing left to lose, even the smallest hope seems like an invaluable treasure. And Maya Rodriguez, holding that card like it was a talisman against despair, had no idea that on the other side of the Bay Area, Steph Curry was at that exact moment meticulously organizing every detail of a plan that would transform her desperation into the most shared hope story on the internet. 6:30 in the evening, while Maya was driving home in her Honda Civic through Oakland's streets, passing neighborhoods where gentrification and poverty coexisted in uncomfortable proximity, Steph was in his office in Atherton, finalizing a call that would change everything. "Marcus, did you get all the information?" "Steph, man, this story is even more complicated than you imagined." Steph adjusted himself in his chair, preparing to hear details that would confirm his intuition about Maya Rodriguez. "Talk." Maya Rodriguez, 24 years old, lost her father, Roberto Rodriguez, in a work accident when she was 17. He was a construction worker, fell from scaffolding on the last day before Maya graduated from high school. Steph closed his eyes, perfectly imagining a 17-year-old girl ready to start adult life, having all possibilities torn away in a second. She had a full scholarship to UC Berkeley nursing program. First in her high school class, 4.0 GPA, recommendation letters that were practically academic love letters. Her teachers wrote that she was born to heal people. Born to heal people. Steph smiled sadly. He had seen this in action at the Golden Spoon. The way Maya cared for the family with the sick child wasn't random kindness. It was vocation being expressed even out of context. But she had to refuse Berkeley to support the family. Her mother, Maria Rodriguez, developed type 2 diabetes after her husband's death. The doctor said it was stress, but it was probably also lack of money for adequate nutrition and preventive medical care. Marcus continued. The diabetes evolved into kidney failure, and now she does dialysis 3 times a week. And Steph, today she had an episode during the procedure. Blood pressure dropped, she fainted, was unconscious. Today, Steph felt his stomach contract. While he was at home planning how to help Maya, she was living a medical crisis in real time. And the debts? Marcus made a pause that lasted too long. Here it gets difficult, Steph. The current medical debt is $24,315. But there's an ultimatum. If they don't pay at least 50% by Friday, the hospital suspends treatment. Friday. That's 2 days. Yes, and there's more. If the mother needs a kidney transplant, which she probably will in the next few months, we're talking about $300,000 to $400,000. Steph picked up a calculator from his desk. His annual salary was $40 million. That meant the $400,000 to save Maya's mother's life represented, he did the calculation, approximately 3.5 days of work. 3.5 days of his work could give decades of life to her mother. The irony of economic inequality is sometimes too absurd to seem real. Marcus, tell me about her routine. Man, this is where it gets impressive and depressing at the same time. Maya works 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Golden, spoon in the morning, office cleaning in the afternoon, delivery at night, sleeps an average of 4 hours per night. And in 2 years, she's never missed a day of work. Never? Never. Not when she had the flu last winter. Not when she broke her wrist slipping on ice and worked a whole week with a cast. Her co-workers say it's like she's made of steel inside. Steph recognized this description. It was exactly how coaches and journalists talked about him during the playoffs. Like he's made of steel inside. The difference is that Steph chose his battle against opponents who could be defeated. Maya had a battle chosen for her against a system that was literally impossible to win individually. And Marcus, her dreams. Does she still want to be a nurse? Man, this is the most impressive and saddest part. She still studies. She bought used nursing books and studies during breaks from her 3 jobs, as if she still believed that one day she'll have a chance. Marcus didn't finish the sentence, but Steph understood perfectly, as if she still believed that miracles exist. Steph hung up the phone and sat in silence for several minutes, processing information that confirmed everything he had intuited about Maya Rodriguez. She wasn't just a person who needed help. She was someone who deserved the opportunity to multiply help throughout the world. Someone who, with the right tools, could become exactly the kind of nurse who would save lives and inspire others to do the same. And he had the tools to change everything. 7:30 in the evening, Steph left the office and went to the kitchen, where Isha was preparing dinner while the children did homework at the table. It was a scene of domestic normalcy that he never took for granted, especially after spending the entire day thinking about someone whose normalcy included working 16 hours a day just to survive. "How was the investigation?" Isha asked, without looking up from the pan where she was sautéing vegetables. Steph told everything. Maya's complete story. The medical debts, Friday's ultimatum, the eventual need for a transplant, the 16-hour-a-day routine, the nursing dreams she still kept alive despite all logic suggesting it was time to give up. Isha listened to everything in silence, occasionally nodding her head or making small sounds of understanding. When Steph finished, she turned off the heat, turned to him, and said only, "So, what are we waiting for?" "What do you mean?" "Steph David Curry." Isha used his full name, which was always a sign that she was being completely serious. "You just told me about a young woman who works 16 hours a day, never missed a day of work, still studies nursing during breaks, and uses her own money to feed poor families. A woman whose mother will die in 2 months if someone doesn't intervene. And you're asking me what to do?" Steph smiled. It was exactly why he had fallen in love with Isha 15 years ago. She saw the world with the same moral clarity as him, but with less hesitation. "You're not even asking a question, are you? You've already decided." "Already. 4 hours ago, when you came home with that expression." "Then why are we still talking? Go save that family." 8:45 in the evening, Steph called Marcus one last time on that Tuesday that would change 2 lives forever. "Marcus, I want you to organize 4 things by tomorrow morning at 9:30. And I want everything done so I can deliver. Personally? Sure. Talk. First, bank transfer of $35,000 to cover all current medical debts of the Rodriguez family, plus a safety margin for immediate future treatments. Done. Second, I want you to establish a medical fund of $500,000 specifically for complete kidney transplant coverage for Maria Rodriguez, including all pre- and post-operative costs. Marcus whistled softly. That's complete life change, Steph. Third, I want you to contact UC Berkeley Nursing School. I want to establish a complete full scholarship for Maya Rodriguez. Tuition, housing, meals, books, materials, plus a monthly stipend for personal expenses. And I want it to be retroactive, as if she had started when she should have started if her father hadn't died. That will take a few days to organize with the university. Then organize a temporary scholarship through our foundation, something that allows her to start immediately while UC Berkeley processes the official scholarship. And the fourth thing? Steph paused, thinking about the best way to approach the most important part of the plan. I want to do all this personally. I want to be present when she discovers that her life has changed. I want to look in her eyes and say that some people still believe that kindness deserves to be rewarded. Steph, Marcus hesitated. Are you sure? This could leak to the press, could become a media circus. It could complicate things for both you and her. Marcus, Steph used that calm authority that always indicated unshakable decision. Some things are bigger than publicity. Some things you do because they're right, not because they're convenient or strategic. And sometimes, when you find a disguised angel, you have the responsibility to help them fly. Pause. You know I support you in everything, right? I'll organize everything. But Steph, this is going to change her life so radically that she'll need time to process. Be prepared for an intense emotional reaction. Marcus? Yes? Tomorrow morning, at 10 o'clock sharp, I want you to meet me at the Golden Spoon. With all the documents, we're going to do this right. As Steph hung up the phone, he couldn't imagine that on the other side of the Bay Area, Maya was lying in a narrow bed in a room shared with 3 roommates, looking at his business card and wondering if she should have the courage to make a call that could change everything. Or that could be just another disappointment in a life full of them. Some doors open to corridors. Others open to miracles. Tomorrow, Maya would discover which type of door Steph Curry had opened for her. When angels walk among us, how do we recognize them?